When I built a small memorial in my front yard to honor my late father, a decorated veteran, I never expected it to stir controversy. To me, it was sacred ground, a tribute to the man who taught me everything about honor and sacrifice. But one HOA board member, Karen, didn't see it that way. She mocked it publicly, calling it tacky junk. What happened next turned my quiet street into a battlefield of respect and community pride. If you love powerful, real-life revenge stories, make sure to subscribe for more. I still remember the day I placed my father's bronze plaque in my front yard. He had served 3 tours overseas, returned with scars both visible and hidden, and passed away far too young. To me, the memorial wasn't just decoration, it was a way of keeping his presence alive, of reminding myself and others that freedom always comes with a cost. I landscaped the area carefully, a flagpole with the American flag, the plaque set in a polished stone, and flowers that bloomed red, white, and blue. Neighbors who passed by often stopped, some saluting quietly, others offering heartfelt thanks. It was humbling. But not everyone saw it that way. Karen, our notorious HOA board member, was the type who lived to nitpick. Her lawn was flawless, her mailbox polished weekly, and she considered herself the self-appointed standard of beauty for the entire neighborhood. She first approached me on a warm Saturday morning, while I was adjusting the flowers around the plaque. "David," she said, pursing her lips, "we've received complaints." "Complaints about what?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. She pointed at the memorial. "That thing. It's not compliant with HOA landscaping standards. It looks, well, tacky." My jaw clenched. "That thing is a memorial for my father. He fought for this country. He earned every bit of respect this neighborhood can give." Karen sniffed. "Rules are rules. And honestly, this isn't Arlington Cemetery. It's a suburban lawn. You can't just put up whatever you want because you think it's meaningful." Her words hit me like a slap. I stood, planting my feet. "You might want to watch your tone, Karen. You're talking about a man who bled for freedoms, including your right to run your mouth." She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and strutted off. But she wasn't finished. 2 days later, I received a formal violation notice from the HOA. It demanded I remove the memorial within 2 weeks or face escalating fines. I was livid. The notice described my father's plaque and flagpole as unsightly clutter. To see his sacrifice reduced to clutter made my blood boil. I called an emergency HOA meeting. I showed up in my father's uniform jacket, still crisp, still carrying the faint scent of the man who wore it proudly. Karen was there, smug as ever. "This isn't a war zone," she said, flipping through her binder. "This is a neighborhood." And frankly, nobody wants to look at. She never got to finish her sentence. Because that's when Tom, my neighbor and a Marine veteran, stood up. "I want to look at it," he said firmly. "And I think a lot of others would too." One by one, hands shot up around the room. Veterans, family members, even neighbors with no military ties, they all supported me. The HOA board looked cornered, but Karen was stubborn. "We'll take this to a vote," she sneered. Fine. Let her vote. Because what she didn't know was that word was already spreading, and the veterans weren't going to let this fight happen quietly. The morning of the HOA's so-called inspection, the street outside my house looked like something from a parade. Motorcycles lined both sides of the road, chrome gleaming in the sunlight. Flags waved from the back of trucks, and a sea of veterans, men and women of all ages, marched toward my front yard with purpose. I had only expected a few friends, maybe a handful of local vets. Instead, word had spread like wildfire. Veterans from towns hours away had come to stand with me. Some wore their uniforms, some carried flags, and others simply showed up to bear witness. The sheer number of them was overwhelming. I felt my throat tighten. And there, in the middle of the chaos, was Karen. Clipboard clutched to her chest, lips pursed so tight they looked like they could cut glass. She hadn't expected this. Her little army of HOA board members was outnumbered 100 to 1. Mr. Walker, she started, her voice wobbling but still trying to hold authority. This gathering is against HOA regulations. We will be fining you for the display. Before I could respond, a tall veteran in a Marine dress uniform stepped forward. His chest was heavy with medals, his voice like steel. Ma'am, this isn't a display. This is a memorial. A place of honor for fallen soldiers. You want to fine him for that? Then you'll be fining every one of us. A roar of agreement went through the crowd. Some of the vets banged their fists against their chests. Others raised their flags higher. Karen paled, her authority shrinking with every cheer. The HOA board tried to argue, muttering about rules and aesthetics, but no one cared. One of the older veterans, leaning on a cane, cut them off with a simple question. Where were your rules when these men and women were laying down their lives? Where were your aesthetics when we were in muddy trenches and hostile deserts? The silence that followed was crushing. The board looked like children scolded by their parents. Karen, desperate, raised her voice again. This doesn't change the fact that it violates our bylaws. That's when the sound of police sirens pierced the air. 2 squad cars pulled up, and my heart sank for a moment. But when the officers stepped out, my worry turned into something else entirely, because both of them were veterans too. One officer glanced at the crowd, then at the memorial, and finally at Karen. We got a call about some disturbance, he said. But all I see here is citizens exercising their rights. Unless someone's breaking the law, we're not interfering. Karen's face turned crimson. Breaking the law? This is a violation of community regulations. The officer smirked. Ma'am, community rules don't trump constitutional rights. You can't erase a military memorial because you don't like how it looks. That's not how America works. The crowd erupted in cheers. I felt tears sting my eyes. For once, I didn't feel alone against Karen's endless vendetta. Then, something incredible happened. One of the younger veterans, a woman who had lost her brother in Afghanistan, stepped forward with her phone raised. She had been live streaming the entire confrontation. Thousands of viewers were already watching. Comments scrolled across the screen. Stand strong. That HOA is gonna regret this. Respect our veterans. Karen froze as she realized the whole internet had just watched her humiliate herself. The power she had wielded so smugly was crumbling before her eyes. By the end of the day, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Word had spread faster than they could control, and public opinion was firmly against them. They had no choice but to vote unanimously to exempt my memorial from any HOA restrictions. But the story didn't stop there. Local news picked it up. Then state news. Within a week, my little memorial became a symbol. Veterans groups from across the country sent donations to help expand it. What started as a small statue in my yard grew into a full-fledged memorial garden, open to the public, with benches, plaques, and flags representing every branch of service. And Karen? She couldn't show her face in town without whispers following her. Her reputation was ruined. Eventually, she resigned from the HOA board, claiming stress. I still see her sometimes, scurrying into her house when she spots me outside. But I don't bother with her anymore. She's powerless now. What matters is this: my memorial stands tall, untouchable. And every time I sit there, I remember not just the friends I lost in service, but the moment a community stood up against arrogance and said, enough. Because respect isn't optional. It's earned. And when someone tries to erase it, there are always people willing to fight back, together.